So with that, we can call our meeting to order. It is after 6 o'clock. It's actually 6:06. We are a few minutes late. I apologize for that because of the work session. First up, additions and corrections, deletions to the agenda. I know we had 2 additions come out. Sarah, you had was a C and G? An additional sidewalk usage. And then the second one was, remind me, please. You're muted, Sarah.
Thank you. Then that other one I sent out this afternoon was to add the resolution to approve the special assessment role for the treasurer for noxious weeds and utilities and sidewalk.
That was G.
That was under C. Actually, A under number 1, C1. It was kind of an A. Just to approve the resolution that goes with C1.
Thanks. With that, are there any other additions, corrections to the agenda? Seeing none, we'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Support.
Motion supported. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, be a thumbs up and a yay, please.
Aye.
Next up, roll call. Sarah, if you would, please.
Thank you. Commissioner Warnick?
Present, Elm, Michigan.
Commissioner Stahl?
Present in Elma, Michigan.
Commissioner Pitts?
Present, Elma, Michigan.
Commissioner Piccolo?
Present, Storm Lake, Iowa.
Commissioner Allman?
Present in Alma, Michigan.
Vice Mayor Harrington?
Present in Elma, Michigan.
And Mayor Mapes? Mayor Mapes?
Present in Elma, Michigan.
Thank you. All set. We have a quorum.
I'm seeing Greg is freezing up again. Roxanne, you might have to take over the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, Sarah's going to have to help me a lot. Do I just say we start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sounds good. I will get you a flag.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roxanne, I keep going until Greg gets back on.
Yep, it looks like he's out.
Oops, I muted myself, sorry. I didn't realize I was muted. I thought I was doing the Pledge of Allegiance, but apparently I was muted, so thank you, Tony.
Roxanne, can everyone hear me all right too? I was having connection issues all for about a half hour. So, okay, awesome.
Okay. Okay, so now we will move to the approval of the minutes of the April 27th, 2021 regular meeting and the May 5th, 2021 work session.
Move approval.
Support.
Okay, we have approval and support. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Sarah, I wrote down some of the additions, but I'm not sure where they fit in. So if I get to someplace that I've skipped something, please interrupt me. So we move down to hearings. First is a public hearing to consider a special assessment roll for unpaid charges for noxious weed cutting, sidewalk replacement, and utility billing charges for 2020. And that was to be opened at 6, but whatever time it is now. we'll have a- Thank you, Nick.
Support.
Okay, so the public hearing is now open.
Well, let's vote.
Oh, we vote. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so I think that passed, Sarah. So the,
Yes, if you want to call for anyone opposed, Roxanne?
any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And so who is leading our public hearing?
This is the role for all of those, the special assessment role for all the unpaid charges for noxious weeds, sidewalk replacement, utility building from 2020. And we need to get that on the roll. It's just housekeeping to get those all put on the tax.
Okay.
And I have been in contact with Greg. He's trying to get through on the phone now too.
Okay.
So.
Good. We'd all be happier and smoother if he can. So it's the role that we're just looking at that and getting that.
If you want to call, yes, sorry. This is to add those charges to the tax roll for July 1st.
Okay. So already are moving and approving and voting did that addition, so we're all set now, or we need to do that again?
But we need to, if there's anybody in the public that wants to speak
Okay.
on this issue, and I believe these are delinquent charges for noxious weed cutting, sidewalk replacement, utility billing that will now go on the tax roll.
But there's no presentation other than the list that's been presented to us. We don't read through that or do anything like that. Okay.
Correct.
Correct. Once we close the meeting, Roxanne, there will be a resolution that was in the agenda packet that we need to consider approval.
Okay. So since there's no,
Roxanne, maybe if you invite anybody from the public who wants to
Okay.
speak to do so.
if there's anyone from the public, and Aaron will alert us if there's anyone from the public who would like to speak.
Several people in attendance of the meeting tonight who may like to speak. If they would like to, they can unmute themselves now, or if they are connected by phone, they can dial *6 and that will unmute them and they would be able to speak to the meeting.
Okay.
And this is only the first public hearing. We've got what? I think we have 4.
Right. Yeah, this is specifically for that special assessment tax roll.
So, anyone? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so hearing no public comment, then we move to close the public hearing?
I think you need a motion support, but that's
Mhm.
exactly right.
Move to close the public hearing.
Support.
Support.
All those in favor indicate by thumbs up and aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. Greg, are you back with us?
I think so. We'll see how long the internet lasts.
Okay.
My apologies.
Okay,
Greg, we're at that point, that A, that other amendment to approve the resolution.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I don't have that ready. Sarah, could you read that for me, please? Because I don't have it ready, or Matt, would one of you?
Consideration of a resolution to approve the special assessment rule for unpaid charges for noxious weed cutting, sidewalk replacement, and utility billing charges for 2020.
So moved.
support.
We have a motion and support. Is there any comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor, be a thumbs up and a yay.
Hey.
Aye.
Aye.
Be thumbs down and an A. Looks like it is passed. So I believe we're now at number 2, public hearing number 2, to review the proposed fiscal year 2022 annual city budget and related property tax millages. I see Sarah's telling me yes, so that's good. So Matt, are you going to lead this?
Yeah, this is to set the rates.
Can
for
we
the
get a
upcoming
motion
year.
to
Oh,
open
I'm
the
sorry, I
hearing?
had a motion.
Yes, well, let's open the public hearing.
Support.
Okay, motion and support. All those in favor, be a thumbs up and
Aye.
a yay.
Aye.
Opposed, be thumbs down. Looks like it passed. So go ahead, Matt. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is for the proposed FY 2022 budget with the assumption that of the following property tax millage rates being levied for the upcoming year. The general fund millage is still 14.4060. Transportation millage of 0.9604. Voted street millage of 2.500. The voted library debt millage of 1.5. The PA 164 library millage of 0.5 and the DDA millage within that district of 1.9716. And these are the same that we had last year.
Got your questions? Okay, so I hear none from the commission. So this is a public hearing. Is there any members of the public who would like to address the commission? And Aaron, can you let us know if there are indeed?
I will absolutely do my best. There are several members of the public in attendance, and I can see that Mr. McCormick is connected and currently unmuted. I don't know if he would like to make a comment. And again, anyone connected by telephone that would like to make a comment can unmute by pressing *6.
Perfect. Did you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just figuring out how this works. Yeah, I didn't know if I should unmute or leave it muted. I'm sorry, I didn't know how this worked.
Do you have a comment or question, Rod?
No, I just tuned in to find out, I got my notice in the mail. So like I say, I'm just trying to figure out the Zoom thing. I'm not too familiar with this stuff, so I'm just going to listen, and I'll probably have questions.
Hey, thank you. Well, welcome. We're glad to have you aboard, along with everybody else from the public. It's nice to see the public being interested. And Aaron, are you seeing anybody that does indicate they'd like to speak?
Not at this time, Greg. Everyone else besides Mr. McCormick is muted, and I do not see any hands raised in the participants list.
Well, with that, we'll entertain a motion to close. Whoops. Perhaps Mr. Prout?
No, at a later time.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
I just don't want to cut anybody off if they do want to speak. We want to give the opportunity, so. But it sounds like nobody else wants to speak at this time, so we can entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any final comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of closing the hearing, thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, thumbs down and an A. Okay, the hearing has been closed. So we'll now move down to number 3, public hearing to review the special assessment district number 1 of 2020 for the construction of sanitary sewer leads on Iowa Street between Charles and Falkirk in conjunction with the 2020 CIP street construction project. So I'll entertain a motion to open that hearing.
Move to open the public hearing.
Support.
We have motion support. Matt, is this going to be you or is this?
That'll be me.
David,
Okay.
Unless Matt wants to take over, I'm perfectly good with that.
you've gotten really good at these over the last few
Oh,
weeks, David.
thank
so we'll
you.
keep rolling.
I apologize for anybody. This will be a repetition of what we talked about a month ago. Welcome to all the residents that are here to listen to this. I recognize quite a few names and kind of know where your streets are. So we're going to first talk about the Iowa Street Special Assessment for Sanitary Sewers. And I'm going to do a screen share to show you the presentation. So bear with me here just a second. Okay, this is for the sanitary sewer leads on Iowa. The commissioners have seen this about a month ago. The residents, this is now the public meeting for that to discuss this. So you guys can hear what we're talking about. And I apologize, we can't do this in a live public meeting. As I mentioned before, I've tried to hold this off, but because of the COVID concerns, there's not really any end in sight. So we're having to do this on Zoom to keep this moving along as necessary. This is the district we're talking about. This is Iowa Street. The red bubble indicates the area where we're going to replace the sanitary sewers. There is a little bit of overreach on Charles, you'll notice, but this gives us a rough idea of where we're at and what we're talking about. And this is the spreadsheet for how we derive the estimated costs. I want to be clear on that, estimated costs. For anybody that has any questions about the bill and how we come up with that. This is based off prior construction projects, and then we kind of forecast any kind of price increases. Hence why I mentioned that these are estimated costs. For an 8x6 Y, we're figuring $350 per Y for 6-inch service pipe. The average was about 17 lineal feet, and it's $68 a lineal foot. And for a clean out, it's $330. And those are how we derive these estimated costs. Now, this is a list of every single address, and simply because I show you those prices does not necessarily mean that a resident's going to be charged any of those amounts. The reason you may not get charged that amount is there's actually 2 reasons. If you have Schedule 26 or better plastic pipe, we will not charge you to reconnect to the new sanitary sewer. If you have anything other than SDR 26 or SDR 40, either of those, and for anybody that doesn't know what those are, it's plastic pipe. And we used to say just plastic pipe, but the problem is during construction, we have found there is a plastic pipe that is installed throughout the city. There's a couple places we've found historically. It's very thin wall plastic. You can take your hand and squeeze it and break it apart. It has no structural integrity. So if it's a plastic pipe like that, we're still going to replace just outside of the curb line, and we would charge each prospective property owner the amount of pipe that we replace, plus for a clean out and for the Y to connect. But if you have SDR 26 or SDR 40, or yes, SDR 40, we will not charge you anything. We're just going to connect to it and you won't get a bill. The other reason is if you're not within this district, you saw that area on Charles Avenue. I've included some houses along that. I can always add houses to a special assessment, but once it's created, I cannot add any more, but I can always delete them later on. So we always go overkill with anybody that may have the possibility of being connected to a sanitary sewer. But if we do not replace it, you won't be charged. And if it's one of those plastics that I mentioned before, you won't be charged. The reason we do we replace these sanitary sewer lines for a couple reasons. We have noticed historically that when we put in a brand new road, within a few years, inevitably, there's always a failed sanitary sewer lateral. Then you have to excavate the street. Once you do that, the integrity and the future of that road is significantly altered. So it doesn't last as long. Number 2 is we're trying to reduce clear water from entering the sanitary sewer that doesn't belong there, that's actually illegal water. So we're trying to make the sanitary sewers tighter within the city of Elma. And we replace it just outside of the curb line, and that's so that if you do have a problem with your sanitary sewer in the future, you're not going into the road. It makes your life dramatically easier later on down the road. You don't have any permit costs that go along with that with excavating the street. The city will pay for half of the cost, and then the property owner will be expected to pay the other half of the total cost. This sheet shows that, lists all the addresses and the approximate property owner cost and the approximate City of Elma cost. And then there's your total there on the far right. And before I go any further, I think this is the time where I would open this up for public questions before we move on to any additional slides.
Dave, if I could, I'm not familiar with SDR 26. I'm very familiar with Schedule 40.
Yeah.
Is 26 that lighter weight version of 40?
No, it's actually a little heavier duty and it's green pipe.
It's the green pipe. Okay.
Yeah. And it can be in other colors, but commonly that's what we would see.
We'd always use Schedule 40 then. Are we switching to the 26?
No, sometimes if a homeowner's replaced it, whatever their contractor maybe they got a better deal on it, they had it laying in their yard, they can always go above and beyond. We would replace it with Schedule 40. Once in a while, a contractor that does their street project might have 26 and they'll ask to use it in lieu. We're okay with that. Just pay for it as the 40 cost per bid.
Another question comes to mind. That looks like the bubble you drew ends just before the railroad tracks.
Yes.
Are we highly confident that what's going under the railroad tracks is good pipe?
No, I'm not going to there. This sanitary sewer stops it actually was replaced to the east there where that little island is. That section to the south was replaced as a part of a sanitary replacement project. And this portion of Iowa stops at the railroad tracks. This portion that we had budgeted for our 6-year plan, it went to the railroad tracks and stopped. We did not go beyond that.
One other question comes to my mind while we're talking about the street and tearing it up. How are the water lines there, the supply line?
The water supply lines, the water main itself is going to be replaced. The water lines, I'm sorry, what's that? Oh, I thought there was interference. Okay. The water line itself is going to be replaced. The water services are going to be replaced up to the curb stop. As far as our records indicate, and we're still double checking that with current and actually brand new Eagle standards that were issued 2 weeks ago, based on the information that we have at this point, those may not qualify for the lead copper inspections, but we're still looking at the idea of still vacuuming out all of those water services to see if we have to go all the way back to the house. As of right now, with our understanding, those services may not need to be replaced up to the house as a part of that. If you remember last year's project on Hayes, there were 4 houses that we actually did go and replace up to the house.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
Is now a good time to talk about the renovation of the street?
I would,
Sure.
up to the commission, but we can.
Mr. Prout, yeah, you can certainly ask questions. That's
Okay, my question is, with the renovation of the street, I am fearful that the speed on Iowa Street is going to increase. And Warwick and Superior and Iowa are the only access streets to Wright Avenue from Smith Road. And I started talking to Mr. Schooley in the spring of 2018 about the speed on Iowa Street. And I have requested speed limit signs, I've requested speed tables, and I've requested police presence on the street to slow down traffic. And so far, I have not seen that. I've seen police a couple of times on Iowa Street, but no tickets issued. It was also mentioned in June 25th of 2019 that there are no 25-mile-per-hour street signs posted on city streets. And I gave you a list at that time that Mechanic Street has a 25-mile-per-hour, Fairlane and Charles has 25, Fairlane and West Superior, Center and Purdy, Center and Philadelphia, Center and Grant, Gulfside with no outlet has 25 miles per hour. Warwick has 25 and Superior has 25. So I am requesting once again something be done with the speed on Iowa Street. And I have, I've put out options, but nothing seems to be sticking. And I was wondering what the city commission is going to do to slow traffic down on Iowa Street.
The first line of defense is probably the police department to get enforcement there. If there's an issue with speeding, I think that's the general best defense. A few tickets generally takes care of the problem.
But
Well,
if there are-
haven't we done,
And I do.
I think we've discussed this in the past and had police there and various studies when
We've done two
Mr.
separate,
Prout has asked us before.
we've had two separate studies where they were out there for periods of time that's been brought back to the commission.
right, one study said 13 low and 39 high. Speed limit's 25 in there, and there haven't been any tickets issued. So it's kind of like, when I was a principal at the middle school, if you're not out in the hallways, things happen. And if we don't get any police presence, people come in from Smith Road to go to Wright Avenue, and they're flying down through there, and they know that they're not going to get a ticket.
Matt, what's the reason we can't have speed limit signs? I don't understand that.
25 being a prima facie, I don't know how many, and Mr. Proud just pointed out how many there are. So, I mean, there are things that we could post up. I just bring from there. 25 is not, and David Craig, but I don't believe are used that often anymore if we still have some in the town that are here, because that is the prima
Correct
facie.
you. Yes, I can answer some of those questions. The ones that he had listed are all major streets. Major streets are to be posted for the speed limit. Iowa Street is a local street. He mentioned Gulfside. I'm assuming Gulfside is a carryover from that was in the actually part of the road commissions right up until the 70s. And that's probably a carryover of when that was a road commission road. And that's because that would be the only local that still has that sign on it. The reason it would still have a sign is because it would have a traffic control order that would follow that street. But no local streets are posted for 25.
Does Warwick and Superior have speed limits signs?
They should, because they are major streets. The Superior's an MDOT trunk line that would have postings, being that it's MDOT. Same thing with Wright Avenue.
Yeah, and Iowa Street is another one that it's main street from Smith to Wright Avenue.
It might be a main drive, but it is not a major street.
Classified.
It is not classified under Act 51 as a major street. We don't get funding for it on Act 51 funds.
Well, regardless of that, I think we could still look into putting up a sign. I don't see why that would be posting a speed limit sign to maybe slow people down in that area.
There's a,
I mean, is there a rule against it?
It would set a precedent. It's the only thing I can think of. I'm not aware of any rules off the top of my head other than it does not follow current standards as far as local streets being posted. If it does that, that could open us up to putting a speed limit sign on every single block of every single local street. If requested.
Right, and we discussed, and then that gets pricey and it's not necessary. I don't think,
So my
as far as
question,
city standards are, and I guess Matt can correct me where I'm wrong here, I'm not a police officer, but unless they're posted in the city limits, they're 25 unless posted otherwise. Same thing on the county road, they have their different, I think that's.
Is there a way, what classifies a major street? Is there a way to, is there a way to push that into a major street and then put a sign on it and then to grandfather it in that way?
No,
Okay.
MDOT classifies them as majors and locals.
Okay.
Mark on the line by chance? I didn't happen to see him, but
Yeah, I'm here.
is there a way we could get a little more police presence on there, on that street?
We've given police presence to that street multiple times, and Mr. Proud is incorrect in the fact that there's not citations issued. The reason for that is because there's simply not speeders on that street. So the ones that we did have in the one thing that had up to 39, that was an outlier. And when we do enforce that, there may be in a couple hour session, maybe two people that are going 28 miles an hour or something. And quite simply, at that point, it's up to officer discretion. I'm not opposed to continuing. We have a lot of streets in town where there are speeders. So we don't have a lot of time just to dedicate to Iowa Street over and over again with no results. So I'll continue to encourage the officers to patrol the area as we would any other street. And if there are violators to cite them, but minus that, there's not much else I can do.
Mark, appreciate that.
I will add to put in for a grant request for another speed trailer. The one that I talked to Mr. Prout about that we had out there a couple of years ago was not working sufficiently. We borrowed it from St. Louis. I think it's still down. I put in for a grant request for one last year, and I did again this year. And I'm fairly confident that we'll be able to obtain a speed trailer, at which time I would be happy to put that out there, and I will work hand in hand with Mr. Prout to get this resolved the best we can.
Thank you.
If I remember correctly, yeah, when you did the studies in the past, the problem wasn't as prevalent as it was in some other areas.
That's correct, and that's the thing. I think, in all due respect to Mr. Prout, it does appear, I believe, that vehicles are speeding down that street. There are vehicles parked in the street, which gives you it appears that they're going faster because there's stationary objects that are close by, and it is at 25 miles an hour in some cases on that street when there's vehicles parked in the street. Could be unsafe, and they certainly look like they're going faster than what they are, and I think that's the problem there. So I'm not saying that vehicles don't appear to be going as fast, but from our experience, and I'd be happy to drive down the street, meet with Mr. Prout and drive down the street at 25 when there's vehicles in the road, and that way he gets a sense of, he can tell me then if that's what he's seeing or if it's not, because that's the only thing I can think, because our radars are certified and calibrated, and it's just simply we're not getting the speeds that he states that we should be getting, and it's not me against him, it's just a fact. So if we need to figure something else out with maybe some signs or me working with them and driving down the street at speed to see if that's maybe what it is, I don't know. But and I have sympathy for him in particular for this, because I do agree if there are speeders, we need to correct that. But I feel like we've done everything that we can at this point, and I'd be happy to contact him later tomorrow and discuss it further if we need to.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that.
I think the layout of that road too, like I travel that road every single day to go to work because I live on Fairlane, and I come home from work the same way. And I know you come down that hill on Iowa, and I mean, I catch myself almost every day going over a little over 25, and then you got to slow down because it's like you've got the momentum of the hill. Then you get to the railroad tracks, and then you really want to slow down. And it's just like something about that. It's kind of the same with Fairlane. When you start coming down Fairlane, and you almost, you go down that hill, and it's like you got to kind of watch. So I think sometimes too that people get a little momentum going on that road, and then they don't realize they might be going a little too fast.
It does have that kind of flow, which does give you that perception that Mark's talking about of when you see, because the vehicle is doing this and it moves, and it gives you that. I mean, they've been out there, I think it's 3 different times, and ran a lot of data through that. I wish that the speed trailer would have worked better, because it's not a patrol car sitting there that we all know does that. The only worry I have with speed trailers is I also know people who see a speed trailer, and if there's nobody there, we want to see how high we can get on the speed trailer. So
win a prize, right?
I think if we just continue to monitor, and Mark, if you're willing to do that, to spend some time with Mr. Prout out there, we'll do whatever we can.
But I also agree with
I'm
Mark.
willing.
I also agree with Mark, and I understand Mr. Prout is on Iowa Street, but Slater Street, Lincoln Avenue over by the fairgrounds, just to name a few. When I'm out walking, people speed all over, and the cops patrol it as best as they can. But people are going to zip down every street or every highway they're on. So we'll do the best we can, but unfortunately, it's not just Iowa Street. So the cops are doing the best that they can to patrol all areas.
I think Miss Avery has her hand up. Is it Sarah Avery?
Yes, hi. I am wondering if we want to replace the piping from the where the city stops into our house. If we will get a date as to when the area is going to be worked on so we can coordinate with the city, how do we make this all work if that's what we wish to do?
Yeah, that's an easy question. Once we have a contractor picked out, we have a meeting and we'll get a timeline from them. We'll not proceed whenever we do a construction project with the street, we send out letters to all the affected homeowners to go over what the project is, what it entails, what to expect. That's one of those questions we can address at that meeting. If you want to have it done in conjunction, you can have it done after the project. You could even look at hiring the contractor that the city's doing if they're so inclined to do that. If those are things we can talk about at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Do you have a question? Are there any other questions or comments from the public or the commission? Okay, hearing none, we would then probably seek a motion to close the public hearing, if we could.
Move to close the public hearing.
Support.
We have a motion and support. All those in favor, again, it's a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
thumbs down and a nay. Motion is passed. The hearing is closed. Moving down to consideration of a resolution authorizing the Iowa Street Sanitary Sewer Leads project and approving a special assessment role as presented. Your pleasure.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Support. Did you get
I'm
that,
sorry,
Sarah?
I didn't get the motion.
Roger
Roger?
made the motion, I believe.
Thank you.
Okay, so all those in favor, be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Would be a thumbs down and a nay. That motion is passed. Thank you. Moving down to item 4, public hearing to review the special assessment district number 2 of 2020 for the construction of sidewalks on Iowa Street between Charles and Falkirk in conjunction with the 2020 CIP street construction project. Entertain a motion to open the hearing.
Move to open the hearing.
Support.
My motion support. All those in favor, be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Aye.
Open. So Dave, are you going to take this one again?
Yes. Okay. Let's see here. Screen share. Okay, this is for the special assessment hearing to construct a sidewalk along Charles Avenue from Iowa up to the park and ride for the rail trail. This is the area in particular that we're talking about. Try to show in light gray the existing sidewalk that is currently there along Charles Avenue. The red is the proposed area to show that interconnect between that existing sidewalk along Charles and the existing sidewalk on Iowa. And there is only one house affected there. And so this would be a shared cost between that property owner and the city of Alma. The estimated amount is we charge per lineal foot for sidewalk on this, and we go based on their frontage along Charles Avenue. And the property owner's estimated cost is $2,970, as well as the city's estimated cost at approximately $5,940.
Dave?
Mhm.
Who has the first question for Dave? Well, I guess I'll take the first one then, if I could, Dave, since I wouldn't want to leave the hearing with no questions. I know quite frequently when we're constructing sidewalks, we assess both sides of the street, and we could assign, benefit for that particular project to an area larger than perhaps the building that it's going in front of or the lot that it's on. Is there some reason that we did not do that this time?
Yeah. Past historical practices is what I've gone by. There is existing sidewalk on the west side of Charles, and if some of the people might remember, that was extended a couple of years ago. I believe there was a petition by those residents on that west side, and they shared in that cost. So they had already paid to have their sidewalks extended along that west side. And there's no one else really to assess it to, just because the west side has a sidewalk, and then they would have the benefit for both sides as past precedence sets. So the other side has sidewalk. It's already there. They're not being charged. They've already paid for it at one point. This one does not have it. This one currently does have it on Iowa, just not along Charles Avenue.
The additional joy of owning a corner lot.
Or misery. Yeah. Or it's, and it's the cost benefit. And to follow up on Greg's question for any of the new commissioners, let's say if there was no sidewalk on the west side of Charles Avenue, we would charge all of those prospective residents that have equal benefit of it up to the rail trail. Typically would be how we would do that they would have some type of a benefit from it. Whether or not they do walk it, they would still have that option. We would split that cost amongst them as well.
Okay. Are there any additional questions? And this being a public hearing, it is open to the public. If the members of the public have any questions. I am hearing no questions, and I don't see anything from Aaron indicating that he is seeing anything. So we'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this point.
Move to close the public hearing.
Support.
Support. Last chance for anyone. Comments or questions? Hearing none. Those in favor of closing the hearings, the thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Any opposed would be a thumbs down and an A. We have closed our hearing. We'll move down to item A4A, consideration of a resolution authorizing the Iowa Street Sidewalk project and approving the special assessment role as presented. Your pleasure.
Move approval.
Support.
Motion and support. Any additional comments or questions? Hearing none. Those in favor would be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Aye.
Thumbs down and a nay would be negative. Looks like that motion has passed as well. Thank you very much. Moving down to item 5 is a public hearing to review the special assessment district number 1 for 2021 for construction of sanitary sewer leads on Francisco between Michigan and the dead end to the north in conjunction with the Francisco Avenue sanitary sewer replacement project. So we'll entertain a motion to open the hearing.
Move to open the hearing.
Support.
Support. All those in favor of opening the hearing would be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed would be thumbs down and a nay. The hearing is now open. David, I presume this is you again?
Correct.
Kind of hogging the show tonight.
Yes, I apologize for everyone having to hear me so much tonight. So I warned you about a month ago that I was going to have a lot to talk about. So here we are, and I apologize again. Rod, I assume that's why you're here. You've been waiting patiently. This is for your portion. There might be other ones, but I recognize your name. This is for the Francisco Avenue new sanitary sewer leads. This is similar to what we just discussed on Iowa. If there's anything Schedule 40, Schedule SDR 26 plastic, we will just connect what is there and not charge. And I will show you the district that we're talking about. I have also included some houses along Michigan Avenue for the idea that we may have to, but I do not at all foresee that because that sanitary sewer was replaced back about 5 years ago now as a part to lead into this project, actually, when we did the Water Authority project. So it's easier to remove houses or addresses, properties, than it is to add them later on. So that explains our district. And as mentioned, same reasons. We want to keep people out of Francisco once that street is redone. Significantly reduces the cost of your sanitary replacement later on down the road. And it dramatically reduces the I&I, which is clear water, from entering the sanitary sewer system. So there's a mutual benefit to both parties and keeps our streets looking newer condition a lot longer. And we are blessed with being able to do that. Came up with this. This is based on, these are our estimates, and bear in mind, once again, these are estimates. What we are projecting is we will replace up to 33 feet from the ladder, from the main, which is roughly in the center of the street, to beyond that curb line. And the estimated cost is $58 per lineal foot. You'll notice these price differences. I actually have bid prices that I'm using on this one. So that explains the cost difference between Iowa. And the clean out is included in in this price as well, or excuse me, the Y is included in the cost for pipe. So a little bit different how this was bid out. So you'll see those cost differences, but rest assured, these will have clean outs, these will have Ys, and that is the cost to connect to the cost per lineal foot to connect to the new main, to the existing laterals beyond that curb line. I keep using that word estimate because we don't know what kind of condition the pipe's going to be in that we're connecting to. Sometimes we have to go a little further because if the pipe that we're connecting to is junk, we want to find a good connection point. But like I mentioned, if it's any of the acceptable plastics, you won't get a cost or a charge assigned to you. And at that point, I'll open up to any questions.
Hey, Rod, do you have any questions?
Well, I'm just trying to figure. I think I've got 4 or 5 parcels right there in that area. Some with buildings on them and some without. I don't recall the exact addresses for everything. So, of all the ones you have listed, obviously the main building is 1313 Michigan Avenue, but I can't recall what the other addresses are that I have there.
Okay. If we don't have
are they?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay. I just, like I said, whether that was my only one there, or can you tell me, are any of those other parcels mine?
I don't know exactly what all you own, but 1313 is many platted lots that make up a parcel. And you are only being assessed for one at 1313. Now, I don't know if you own, let's say that parking lot across the street. I don't know if you own that, the southeast corner of Ferris and Francisco.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just trying to take a look here. Let's see here. 6, 7. Yes, for parcel number 067 and 068 for that parking lot, I am projecting to put laterals into those for the idea that if there ever is any kind of a building that's placed there, they don't have to cut into the new road. There will already be a lateral placed there.
Okay, parcels 067, 068, where is that on the screen I'm looking at?
Okay, hold on here just a second. I'll go back. Okay, this one, it's that parking lot. You see the southwest corner of Francisco and Ferris?
Yeah.
That parking lot that has 2 parcels, that is those 2 parcels right there. 067 is the one on top and the north side, and 068 is the one just to the south of it, which is below that.
Okay.
Do you have more questions, Rod, or
my son, who's my general manager, Robbie, was saying that this is just for sewer work and so on. He was saying something about curbs because the road kind of flows right onto my property, almost right up to my building. It's generally used for parking, but it's also kind of widens the road out. We're only talking sewers. We're not talking curbs or anything else for this application.
No, for this project, what we're talking about is the special assessment for just the sanitary sewers, but the road itself will be reconstructed there, and there will be curb and gutter placed in there. That is a part of that project, as well as some sidewalk replacements. there's sidewalk there along your building that's in pretty poor shape that'll be replaced as a part of this project as well.
Right, yeah, that was the area I was referring to. Now that sidewalk kind of butts right up against a half wall. I don't know what the purpose of that half wall is that the sidewalk bumps right into, and that is kind of caving in too because of the sidewalks caving in. Are you know what I'm talking about as far as that little partial wall by the sidewalk?
I'm vaguely familiar with it, but we can look at that. I can look at that at a later time. If you contact me tomorrow or so, we can set up an appointment. I can go out and take a look at it.
Yeah, because they butt right up against each other. I don't know how you're going to do sidewalk work without needing to involve the wall also, which attaches to my building.
Okay. Unfortunately, that is a case in downtown. I've seen that a lot where the sidewalk is integral into the foundation wall. So that's something we'll want to take a look at and see what kind of options we have there.
Okay. Yeah, okay, that'd be great. When is the curbing and so on will start after the drain stuff is done then, and
yes,
like right afterwards? Or?
Yeah, that's one of the last portions of the project. Once all the underground is done, then we'll do the road surface itself. And just like Iowa, we'll send out a letter to all the residents before we start construction, so you know what to expect, and you'll get an opportunity to look over the drawings and things like that. And we'll give you a timeline, a schedule, what to expect. You'll know who the contractor is at that point, and all that good stuff.
So you don't have any tentative dates that you might be doing the road? I understand about getting with the contractor, but I mean, that is, that road is the main vein to my, getting boats and campers and so forth in and out. And this is my peak season, so I'm trying to, plan around this or plan ahead of this. As far as whether it's going to be later in the year, where it might slow down, if it's going to be right in the middle of my peak season, am I going to have access to my bay doors to get boats and so forth in and out? I'm also wondering about my parking lot on the corner of Ferris and Francisco there. There won't be any heavy equipment parked in that lot, will there?
No, not if you don't want there to be. They can't park anything on private property without your express written permission. As far as peak season, I guess I can't speak for your peak season. These will be things we talk about at that construction meeting with all the property owners and residents. But right now, my tentative start date is going to be early June is what I'd like to do. I'm looking at having the pre-con with the contractor here in a week or two. I'm trying to get those schedules figured out. Once I get that schedule, that's when we'll send that letter out to all the property owners that are going to be affected. Now, while underground work is going on, obviously during the day, it's going to be problematic to get in and out of there. But unless we're doing utility work directly in front of like that service bay you're talking about, you can go in and out of that. The road is closed to through traffic, but locals, if you live on there, you can get up and down the street. Now, might not be in the best condition. And if we're doing any kind of utility work, it's going to be difficult to cross that trench. But every evening and early in the morning, you'll have access to those drives. So if you have any kind of equipment or if there's campers, boats, anything like that stored in there, we'll give you that timeline. You might want to talk to them about getting that out of there or seeing if they can maybe coordinate after hours, say in the evenings, to get that stuff out of there.
Dave, another item occurred to me. If we go back to the sewer line, and because Rod's building was actually, I think it's an amalgamation of at least 3 different builds, and we've got him slated for one sewer line. Are we confident there's only one sewer line coming out of that building? And if there happens to be multiple, once you start digging, does he get charged for the multiples?
Yes. We believe he has one. And that's based on what we can see and what we know of ahead of time. But there are times where there is a lateral that's underwater that we don't see. And if we see that during construction, What we would do is go into his building, find out where all the sewers are, have them actually flush all the toilets. We might have them do it repetitively to find out if they're active sewer leads. If they're active sewer leads, then we reconnect them, and then there'll be additional charges per lineal foot for pipe. That's why I stress that those are estimates. That has happened before. If it's an active sanitary sewer lateral, we reconnect it. If we know for sure that it is not an active sanitary sewer lateral, we'll disconnect it, and it's no longer part of the sewer system.
I don't know if Rod is still on, but I have a feeling if that was my building and if I had restrooms or plumbing facilities in any of those additions, I would kind of be working under the assumption that you're going to find more than one.
That's a realistic possibility, Greg. You're right.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I think, well, it's time to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Support.
Support. So all those in favor would be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Anyone opposed would be thumbs down and a nay. The hearing is closed. Consideration now of a resolution authorizing the Francisco Avenue Sanitary Sewer Leads project and approving the special assessment roll as presented. Your pleasure.
Move to approve.
Support.
Support. Any comments or questions at this point? Hearing none. All those in favor, once again, thumbs up and a.
Aye.
Or thumbs down and a nay. And that motion is passed as well. Thank you. Moving down to request for purchase. We had the request for purchase the amount of $29,400 to Jansen Equipment Company for a new loader tractor to be used at the Riverside Cemetery. Your pleasure.
Move approval.
Support.
Okay. Comments, questions, background, Dave?
Yes, thank you. This is replacing a nearly 30-year-old tractor that's definitely seen some use and has some heavy hours on it over at the cemetery. This is not used exclusively at the cemetery, though, but that's where it spends a lot of its time, doing what you'd expect it to do at a cemetery. But it also, we use it for wood chips downtown. We use it for landscaping. We use it to get into hard areas that are also sensitive. So we will relocate that to other jobs as necessary because it's not as heavy duty as, or large and heavy as the backhoe and front end loaders that we have. But that's what it's replacing.
Who has questions for Dave?
And Dave, this was a budgeted item that you waited towards the end of the year to see where we stood, correct?
Absolutely correct. Yes, all three of these purchases, we were kind of holding on. Now that we're coming into the end of the fiscal year, we do have money still in these funds for it. We verified that. And that's why you're seeing these three items actually kind of all at once, as we were in a holding pattern for that. Thank you.
If I remember right with this one, Dave, it seems like one of the bids had an allowance for a trade-in, but I don't believe the recommended bid does. Is your intention to keep the old tractor for backup or for additional use, or?
No, if they won't take it on trade or give us a credit, then it would go in for a public auction like we do with our other obsolete and outdated equipment.
Okay, so, but it wasn't part of the price, was it?
Excuse me, sorry about that, Mike. It was cutting out.
Okay.
No.
So the actual net cost may be less than what the bid is.
Depending what it comes in under auction. And for your background, other commissioners' backgrounds, we wouldn't necessarily put it out for auction at the end, like say in a month or two when the new one comes in. We tend to like to hold on to those things, keep it. So when we do have an auction, there's more to bring people in. And we've also looked at some different online auctions, because if we do the old fashioned auction, things go extremely cheap because no one shows up. So the more things we have for an auction, the more interest there is. But those are some of the tools that we use to try to get more money out of those when it's time to get rid of them.
Dave, have you done that in conjunction with St. Louis or Ithaca as well?
Past practices, we've done that. We try to get with them. And in the last several years, it's kind of difficult in how to do that. And that's where the online system has kind of come into fruition. But yes, that has been how we do it, trying to get as much as we can, as much of a draw, as much advertisement, as much interest to bring in with other equipment.
Any other questions or comments? I don't see any, so all those in favor of the purchase,
Aye.
give me a thumbs up and an aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, be thumbs down and a nay. Okay, we purchased a tractor. Next up is request for purchase the amount of $55,211.25 to Bandit Industries for a diesel-powered wood chipper for the Public Works Department. Your pleasure.
Move approval.
Or
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. David?
This is to replace a over 25-year-old wood chipper that we have. This is what we would go around and obviously do our yard waste cleanup, things like that with a brush pickup. And this one too is getting very long in the tooth. You can get parts for it. It's getting harder to get parts for it. We've run out of salvage parts that we can use on this thing. This was another item too that we had budgeted for this year that we do have an allotment for still left for.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Dave? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor would be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
I
Any opposed? Thumbs down and a nay. That motion is passed. Thank you. Number 3, request for purchase the amount of $31,133.75 to Todd Wenzel Buick GMC of Westland for a pickup truck to replace the truck in Public Works, a truck in Public Works. Your pleasure.
Move approval.
Support.
Motion support. Dave?
This is the replacement of one of the oldest trucks in our fleet. This replaces actually 1999 or 2000. I believe it's now in its 21st, if not going on 22nd year old in the fleet. This will be one of the older ones that we have to replace within the Public Works Department.
Okay. And it looks like it's going to be a plow truck. You're going to put a plow on it?
It could be. The idea being it's 4-wheel drive. It's actually the truck that I drive is my service truck. And I wanted it to be multiple use. And if the current one I have right now is 2-wheel drive, but in the need that if it is needed, we could hook a plow onto it if necessary. No, we're not scheduled to buy a plow for it. But if we had to and use it for other uses, we could. But no, that is not part of what we're going to look at doing.
It's also My Deal, Greg, so you know it is through the My Deal program.
Thank you, Matt. That does make a difference. Which, if for anybody that's listening that isn't aware, My Deal is a state negotiated contract for purchasing large items like vehicles. Okay, anything else? All those in favor, be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Any opposed, thumbs down and a nay. That has passed. Moving on to F, recommendation on bids. We're to consider a resolution to receive bids for the annual sidewalk construction project and to award the project to the recommended bidder. We received 3 bids. It looked like the lowest bidder is J&N Contract from Mount Pleasant, Michigan, and their bid was $67,480. The other 2 bids both came in identically to $79,850. That's pretty amazing. Dave.
More astounding would be the term I would use for it, but to put it into context for other commissioners, we send this out to about 10 different concrete companies, and this is all we got. So this kind of gives you an idea of where the market is right now. This is kind of a good snapshot. Very encouraged to see that price though. So it definitely came in under budget for where we were projecting. That 79,000 is right on the edge of what we were budgeting for. So this was an encouraging number to see.
Dave, is this an estimated price? Can things change if we get out in the field and we do more work or less work, or how does that flow?
Inevitably, whenever we do a sidewalk replacement program, there are usually a handful of people that will contact us that want additional work done. Whether or not if they can be in the district and request work done, or they can be outside of the district and request work to be done. So yes, that number usually always goes up. So when I come back for a change order, which is probably inevitable, that's what happens is more people want to be a part of the project. And also while we were there, sometimes people want to have more done in like if the sidewalk doesn't meet criteria or it's questionable, if they want to add some, we look into that.
Perfect answer, Dave, because personally I have a project that I want to add into there, so I will catch up with you later on that one.
Yes, I knew that was in the background, but I figured we could talk about that after the fact. But I very much project, and you're, not to borrow that, but you're kind of an oddball. There's about 3 different scenarios I want to float with you on yours, so we'll meet with you on that one.
Nothing's ever easy in my life, I don't think so. Does anybody else have questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor will be a thumbs up. Any
Aye.
Any opposed is thumbs down. That motion is passed. We'll move down to resolutions. First up is consideration of a resolution to approve a request to use the downtown public sidewalks for the downtown sidewalk sales on Friday, May 28th, 2021 from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. And this is part of the Elma Highland Festival Experience program. So I think that's it. Any further background on this? I guess, Nick, was that a motion?
It was.
Okay.
Or
We'll look support. Roger? Anybody have comments, questions? Hearing
I
none.
think
All
it's-
those-
I think it's a great idea, the good old sidewalk sales downtown on Friday night. Hopefully it'll bring good business to our stores down there.
I think it's going to be a very busy night. It looks like there's going to be a lot of fun that night, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure others are. Anybody else? Okay, now all those in favor would be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed would be thumbs down and a nay. And I believe this is where we bring in our next resolution for the using the sidewalk sales on the prior Saturday, which would be the 21st, I believe it was, for the Elma Action Association Chalk Walk event.
Move approval.
Sarah, I don't have that resolution. Would you mind reading that for me, please? And you are muted.
Don't have a resolution. Did you want me to read what was on the agenda?
Oh, yes, if you would, please. That would take care of it.
It was consideration of a resolution to approve a request from the Grasia Area Chamber of Commerce for use of downtown public sidewalks for the first annual Chalk Walk event on May 22nd, 2021.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. So now we'll entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Motion support. Any comments or questions? And again, that looks like it's going to be a fun event. The Chamber of Commerce is inviting members of the public come down and draw on the sidewalk, and they've got some preservative stuff they spray on it to make it last, and hopefully all those art projects will be on the sidewalk for the following weekend for the festival and sidewalk sales. Should be cool. So all those in favor, thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Any opposed would be thumbs down and a nay. And that has passed. Moving down to agreements, consideration of a resolution to make the following trustee appointments to the Police and Fire Benefit Fund for 3-year terms beginning May 1st, 2021. And the individuals who were volunteered or did volunteer are Tad Godfrey, Garth Anderson, and James Wheeler. Your pleasure.
Support.
Okay, we have motion support. Any comments or questions?
Greg,
Very
actually,
good.
and I think I put it in my newsletter, both Ted and Garth had served on this when it was active. It's been quite some time since it's been active, and through some discussion, we figured it was time to get this back going. So we have some experienced folks already that are ready to start serving again.
Okay, great, thank you. We want it to be active and unused.
Yes.
So all those in favor would be a thumbs up again and a yay.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, thumbs down and a nay. That passes, and we thank those individuals for volunteering. Moving down to reports, commissioners may receive all the reports with one resolution, or a commissioner may remove any item within the section for individual discussion and vote. We have 3 reports to receive tonight. The Elma Transit Authority report, Planning Commission, it's not an authority, I apologize, Elma Transit April report for 2021. Planning Commission minutes of May 3rd, 2021, and the City Manager's report would be the 3 items. Your pleasure.
Move to receive. Matt, do you want us to pull yours?
Please, Nick, there's just a couple items I'd like to go through. Thank you.
Move to receive the first two with Matt's to come later.
Okay, thank you. Do we have support? We have support. Any comments or questions? Anybody want to pull any of the other two? Last chance. All those in favor, thumbs up.
Aye.
Any opposed, thumbs down and an A. Looks like those have passed. Now we'll entertain a motion to receive Matt's report individually.
Move to receive.
Support.
Thank you. And we have support. Matt, please go ahead.
I just wanted to touch base quickly. Raj, you mentioned it before we got started tonight, the Bethany Christian Services conditional zoning request, rezoning request for the Warwick Living Center, that we did meet with them. That did hit the paper tonight, so I know there's a lot of talk out there about it, but it's the process that's just starting. So we will just begin those discussions with folks who they have a nice agreement in place, but there's an awful lot to do with it. And you've been through rezoning as a commission in the past, so that will start by getting that out to the Planning Commission at our next meeting, and should be back to you if that's the way the Planning Commission decides to go within the next month after that. So, but I do know that's created some chatter and some talk within the community. But this is not anything that's done at this point in time. It's still within your hands and the Planning Commission's hands. So I want to make sure everybody knows that. The American Rescue Plan, the guidelines did come out earlier today, or late yesterday into early today. The only part that's a little disturbing is everybody's amounts are accounted for except for the non-entitled cities, which is us, the 50,000 and below. Still don't have those amounts that have come out. Hearing within the next 2 days, maybe, that those are going to come out, but the money has been allocated to the state of Michigan. So we do know the money is will be moving from the feds within the next couple of days, and then from there it will make its rounds. We have started the process that we talked about at our last meeting, starting to prioritize some of the items from a city standpoint. Really, those are infrastructure issues that we're looking at with water and wastewater. Some high level things, but I do think that I'm going to give you a more detailed look at what those possibilities are in the community. And Audra, you said something right at the end of the last one that I think it rings true when you're talking about this, that we do have to make sure that whatever we decide to use the funds on, that it does have the most benefit to the most amount of people that we have within the community. And I want to make sure that we properly vet that, and we have some opportunity for some of that input from folks as those guidelines are coming out. I think that it's there could be a lot of folks when they first read this that are going to think, where do we stand in this? And I want to make sure that we give people the ample opportunity to have a voice to see about what's the best use for these funds going forward. One of the other areas I've talked about that I want to make sure that we're taking a look at all of the different items that we have that are available, and it backs up to, I talk about the CBDG grant that OHM Services is looking at us for right now. That's one of those areas that and David, I know I'm going to have, it's the David show tonight. I'm going to let him jump on in a second to talk about that, because it's important to know that what we're trying to do is make sure that we're not leveraging or not using the money properly, that if we can get into the CBDG money for this, and if you're willing to look at that, David will explain that a little bit more, that we're not planning for that for American Rescue. So it is a big picture. There really needs to be a big picture, but it does include an awful lot of things throughout the community that these funds could be used for. So I want to make sure that we do vet that properly. So Dave, if you can just give a little bit on the CBDG money that I also gave the information on.
Okay. Like Matt talked about, we've got different Economic Recovery Act money, and we've got this CBDG grant money. Talked a little bit with Matt about maybe using one, if not all these, to leverage it. If you remember back last year when we had OHM come up during the goal setting session, we talked about a number of improvement opportunities that we have coming up, or call them opportunities, but wastewater treatment plant is definitely going to be an area of focus for the next 3 to 5 years. Water distribution has had some major upgrades due to the formation of GAWA, but they still are going to have some hurdles in the next couple of years because of the lead and copper rules. But going back and touching base on wastewater, remember all of the plant expansion and plant renovation projects we've talked about, the CBDG grant opportunity came up, and the timeline was rapidly diminished. We were looking at more like the end of June for this money. Now we have to have a decision literally by the end of May to submit for this. Submissions are due, I believe, June 1st for this now. What we did was we took the SAW grant study that we had from the last few years, and we looked at what in that SAW grant study will be applicable to this CBDG, the too many letters, account. Looking at what can we do with this project, with the available funds for this, to try to get a head start on this, but also ones that don't have to have other ancillary projects done as a part of it that do not qualify for the CBDG grant money. So out of those, we were able to take two of the project major portions out of our SAW grant study forecast, and we divided them up. We took what we talked about for year 1 and year 3, and we combined it. And I could, if you want to know in detail what this is, but what I'll give you is a rough snapshot. And what I would like is your direction tonight. Do we move forward with it? What I'm talking about is about $1 million worth of infrastructure work that we would apply for. We would apply for $1 million grant, and we have to have a minimum of 10% match funds. Obviously, just like our parks grant, the more money you put for match, the higher points you get, the higher you move up in the ranking to get this money. There is a real possibility we could get this money because of that timeline being rapidly cut short and being ready to submit for this. Now, there's a lot of legwork to do by the end of the month to get this submitted for, hence why I'm talking to you commissioners tonight if you want us to move forward with it, because we're going to have to match some funds with this and commit to it. But in the last couple of years, we've noticed at the wastewater plant, and this was part of our SAW grant that exposed it, we have a phosphorus problem that's coming up. And it's not so much a problem now, but it's going to be in the future because the limits are going to be more stringent on phosphorus output from our wastewater plant. Matt actually got an email earlier this week where there's some consultants reaching out to us for different options for phosphorus removal. But that goes hand in hand with another issue that we have is we're running out of carbonaceous material. And we need that carbonaceous material to help us break down the solids at the plant. And we've been seeing a reduction through the years where we're getting less carbonaceous material. So what we did was took on these two projects. So this $1 million that we were looking to apply for would help us with our phosphorus requirements that are coming down the pike, and also might be an avenue for us to make the most out of what carbonaceous material we have, with the idea being that eventually it looks like we're going to have to find a source for carbonaceous material, whether or not we're going to have to work with a supplier to supply it to us so we can help break down materials at the wastewater plant. Before we do this, we could use this as an opportunity to try to renovate some of the aeration basins over at the pond, or excuse me, over at the wastewater plant, to make that carbonaceous material last longer that we have. So that's a very brief overview of what we would look at trying to do under this CBDG grant fund. And like I said, we're at about $927,000. I round up to $1 million that we would ask for, and we would be on the hook for at least 10%. So is that something that the commission would like us to move forward with and to look at that opportunity?
David, that's where I think too, when we start talking about the American Rescue Plan monies that come in, because it definitely is part of that wastewater, water infrastructure plan that we could use matching funds out of that plan also. That would then, if it is the 10% match and we have to do that, that would be eligible to be used under the American Rescue Plan money also.
And we could even maybe, I'm assuming, but by the end of this month, the next meeting, talk about what kind of match we'd have and if we could leverage some of that money from that Rescue Recovery Act. That might be an option too. The idea of maybe if we can get the CBDG grant, then use the Economic Recovery Fund to do some of the other activities over at the wastewater plant that we had talked about last year. So,
and Dave, how much of the, I guess a couple questions, how much of the other projects, what's the tab on those things that aren't not qualifying that need to be done along with this? I mean, are you talking about eating up the whole 800,000 that we're looking at, or?
The grand scheme of what we talked about last year for the SAW grant, the total summation, and we broke it out, we call them in project years. We were looking at 5-year projects. We were looking at a total of about $8 million total. And this would subtract out of that 8 million, 1 million out of that. We could bite this. Nothing has to happen right after this to make this possible. We can do these independent. So we don't have to have something done ahead of time before we could use this type of project for the CBD. And if we only did this with the economic recovery, we could also do that as well. So this would take about approximately $1 million out of that 8 million that we were looking at.
And forgive my ignorance, but you talked about carbonaceous material.
Yeah.
Can I get some background on what that is? I'm not a very good chemist or scientist here, so I'd just like if you can give me a really carbonaceous material for dummies explanation.
You consider it's a carbon source. The term we use is carbonaceous material, and it's wastewater, so we leave it at that. We call it material is what we get. We're not going to get into the specifics of it, but we, for whatever reason, in the last 5 to 10 years, we've been tracking it. We have seen a gradual loss in it, whether or not it's an industrial user that has changed their processes, or if we're having, you look at it, could it be less users? Well, it's not really less users is why we're seeing it. We're looking at a couple different options. We don't really know for sure, but one of the smoking guns might be an industrial user or some type of user that's not giving us as much. We really don't have any answers for it. We just know that we're seeing less of it, which makes it more problematic to treat it. That carbonaceous material is what that bacteria likes to eat, to break down, which helps to digest the material over there. And if it's running out of that food source that it likes, it's not working as efficiently, and it's not breaking down the materials over there in the way that it needs to do.
Is there any correlation in the timing with the addition of I believe we have a sewage hauler, for lack of a better term. Mm-hmm. Is there any timing coincidence with them coming online?
That's one of the things we've looked at, but when we look at what they give us, we should be getting more material from them that we could actually use for that. We get some other issues that come along with that, but if you think of true biosolids that they're delivering to us, we should have plenty of food for the bacteria to eat, and it's running out of food. We're not seeing as much of that into the system. So no, that actually should be helping us with this carbonaceous problem. It gives us other problems down the line, but it should be giving us more carbonaceous material.
I think, could you send us some literature on that? Because I mean, all this stuff, because for you to sit here and tell me for like 3 or 4 minutes and I'm supposed to say, yeah, let's spend that much money. I'm like, Greg, I need something to read to, you know what I mean? To understand it and like figure out exactly where we would be spending the money. Obviously, when we did the tour, we could see that the building needs millions of dollars worth of upgrades and improvements. But if there was some way to kind of research it some more, that's for me. I need that because I'm listening, yep, but I'm not understanding. The only wastewater management I've had is our tour. Yep. Other than that, I haven't studied it.
Most of what we're talking about, you won't see. There are some things that would come along with the plant, but a lot of this that would be spent, most of it would be what you're not going to see, or it'd be part of basins, things like that are longer term of that SAW grant. Now, okay, with the carbonaceous material that I'm talking about, we have 2 different avenues. We can either find ways to maximize our existing infrastructure, which part of this would be creating more baffle walls in our aeration basins, which keeps the carbon around a little longer. It doesn't flow through the plant as fast. We can slow it down to get more use out of what little bit we're getting. Or if that doesn't work, then we'd be looking at long-term costs where we'd have to purchase carbon materials maybe once a month, quarterly. We'd have to actually inject that into the system. So those are the 2 options. We'd like to find a way where we can be sufficient on what we've got rather than having to buy more material or find a source for it. And that's the idea behind this method that we're looking at.
So I mean, I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, but like how much would it be on a monthly basis if we had to start purchasing it? Like, you know, would it be within 2 years, we would be basically making the money that we'd be paying up front now? I mean, obviously things are going to change, but currently if we had to pay for the next 24 months, how much would that be compared to how much we would have to pay to go with this grant?
I can't give you that direct answer right now for the simple fact that we'd have to do it. If we do go down that route, we'd have to commission a study to find out how much we would need to make up what we're losing, number one. Number 2 is if we do some of these methods that we've been doing through trial and error with creating different baffle walls, routing the sanitary material, we might be able to slow down our carbon material so it's not flowing through the plant as fast. So that's going to be, it's a difficult question for me to answer right now.
Okay.
As far as a purchase, there are some plants that they're very fortunate and they can get material given them to them for free because it's a byproduct of other industrial uses. We don't have any of those right now locally that we can even look at. I've had the radars open, but none of the things that we need are local to where you can get it for free, but you have to truck it. And it's like a lot of things in construction, dirt's free, but you've got to truck it. So the material's free, but you still have to truck it to get it to us.
Okay.
Well, and at the risk of oversimplifying what you're saying, I mean, it's something that's going to need to be done. And the benefit of this right now is that there's a grant and that we perhaps have money coming at our disposal that could be used for the matching portion of it. So we're using a little bit of it to get something big that we might not normally have
access to.
Absolutely.
That's the idea. How do we best leverage this? How do we best leverage all of these dollars that may be coming our way? And I do want to make sure with the guidelines that match money is okay, but I believe it is at this point in time. Just to give you an idea on the American Rescue Plan of how slow things have gotten, as opposed to it was if you need to have something ready right now so you can start a process. Federal government announced today that they are working on opening call centers and different things like that, so that those of us who are receiving this money have an avenue to talk to folks at the federal level who can answer a lot of these questions. There's a 53-page frequently asked questions thing that came out with it today, and yet it just came out today, and we already have 53 frequently asked questions. So just the best way we can figure to leverage our monies through a number of different programs. And when David was talking about the CBDG, it's a good way for us to look at that. We know it's something we have to do, and if we can use this leveraged money on the backside, it would help us tremendously down the line.
I guess from my point of view, this definitely would satisfy Audra's desire to maximize the benefit throughout the community, because it truly would impact everybody. You know, we're all paying sewer bills. So this would help with everybody's at least a little bit on that.
And none of that's sexy, I get it, but it definitely is. There's that high cost volume that we would have there. So, and it's
not fun stuff to do, but it's not fun stuff to pay for any way you look at it.
Matt, are they that CBDBGBGB money? Is that federal funds?
I believe the CBDG is a block grant, yeah, but it's not related to these others. It isn't related to the
it's state, isn't it? It's like
it's a CBDG is a state grant.
It's community development block grant.
It's administered through the state. It comes from the federal government.
That's what I wondered, because I would do some checking maybe too, because I know in my world we can't match federal funds with federal funds, so I don't know what it's like in the city world, but.
And that's why I want to make sure that some of these things for match that you're talking about, they profess an awful lot of things that have come out that say this is a good way to leverage your money by using match, but you've got to make sure that those things are all allowed that way. This one is really different. The rescue plan is very, very, very different than anything I've ever seen before. So
yeah, this is kind of the Wild West right now. I mean, they are, like you said, Matt, they're writing the rules on the fly as they're building the airplane as they're flying, taking off from the runway.
Told guys this morning, I said the only thing that concerns me is everybody else, their amounts are allocated, they're out. For some reason, there's a hang up with the non-entitled cities, which are the 50,000 and below, where the money has been delivered to the states or will be delivered to the states within the next 2 days. But for some reason, our numbers have not been published. So everybody else I saw that you were kind of tracking, some of the other metro cities, their numbers were right on target as to where they had been projected earlier. So I'm imagining we will still be projected in that $870,000 to $880,000 range through this. So
our lobbyists are not doing their job the way that the bigger cities lobbyists are doing their job.
And a lot of it's
we don't have the lobbies. So
if you look at the use for the different trunks that you can go, a lot of them are built for bigger cities. It definitely is, because there are things about, when you have cities that have departments that have, urban development departments and things like that, where you're actually doling out money to individuals or private businesses through your city government. It's really hard to imagine how we would be structured that way, or smaller cities would be structured. So I have a sense that's probably some of the hang up too in getting those final amounts out as they're trying to figure out the final pieces of that. As to how we can best, how we're able to do certain things that we probably never thought we could do before. So,
but, even if you can't use this rescue money for the matching 10 to 15% to do $1 million worth of work is a pretty good deal any day of the week. So I guess my feeling, I don't know how anybody else feels, but I would say that we'd like Dave to go through with continue pursuing this.
I would definitely agree with that. Yeah, I think it's worth continuing, especially if you've got a timeline on it.
And the only other thing I had was just the it's great the Highland Festivals, the Highland Festival experience on the this month, and then we're looking to July. Michelle, I know you know a lot about this with KAB and the mural going up. We thought it'd be the perfect time, and I know Nick, Michelle, that we've been talking about this for over a year. That maybe it is time to pull a trigger on that Celebrate Elma celebration and tie it to that. So hoping next week to get a meeting of everybody who's been involved in that and see if we can tie that up and start to look at that in the downtown area.
Okay, good. Another fun day downtown.
That's it.
Yep. Okay. Any questions for Matt? Any more questions for Matt, I should say, or Dave? It's a good day to question Dave as well. Okay. With that, we'll move down to appropriations. Is anyone inclined to pay the bills today?
Move to pay the bills.
Greg, I apologize for breaking in. Did we vote on receiving Matt's report?
Oh, I apologize. No, we did not. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
So with that, if you would please thumbs up and a yay to receive Matt's report.
Yay.
And thumbs down and an A if you don't want to receive Matt's report. So it looks like we did receive it. So thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. And my apologies. Thank you to Sarah for catching that. Now, Nick, is your motion still standing?
It does. Absolutely.
And I don't know if we had support or not, to be honest with you.
Support.
Any comments or questions on the bills? Hearing none, those in favor of paying would be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Any opposed, thumbs down and an A. Looks like it is passed. Commissioner comments. We'll start with, let's see, who's tonight? Audra, why don't you go first?
I don't remember
Please.
a lot to say. I just want to thank everybody from the community who came on tonight. It's been interesting to do this over Zoom and kind of have it just be our group. So it's nice to see, even if you're here for a specific issue, it's still nice to have people from the community on the call. So thank you.
Well said. Thank you. Michelle.
No comments tonight.
Nick.
Nothing to add. No comment.
Roger.
Nothing from me. Thank you.
A quiet group tonight. I'm just looking for Danny. Did we lose him?
You lost Roxanne too.
And Roxanne, yes. They're not on the phone or anything, are they, Aaron? Did we lose Aaron too? Oh, there you are. Okay. Well, at this point, we'll assume they don't have anything to say then. Mr. Attorney, Tony.
I'm all set too. Thank you very much.
It's a quiet group tonight. Sarah? Nothing from Sarah. Matt, do you have anything further to add?
No, I'm good too. Thank you.
Okay, well, for myself, I thank everybody again. Echo the comments that Audra and others have made about having the public on here. It's always great to have people joining in our meetings. And with that, we can open up to the public. If there's any additional comments, any members of the public would like to address the commission. And Aaron, if you could let us know if anybody from the public would like to speak and allow them to do so. Okay, it doesn't appear that anyone cares to address us further this evening. So at this point, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
Support. Have a motion and support. All those in favor, be a thumbs up and a yay.
Aye.
Anyone opposed is thumbs down and a nay. It looks like it is passed. We are adjourned. I thank you all very much. Great meeting, a lot of good discussion. I appreciate it. Thank you all. Have a good night. Stay safe.
See you, everybody.